Hello and welcome to this episode of KnapChat. Today we'll hear from Sam Metcalf, who's the editor of the Business Desk East Midlands. He talks about sustainability in journalism, the rise of the East Midlands business sector, and reporting on the green agenda. I hope you enjoy it and thanks for joining us again. So, you've seen lots of change in journalism over the last 30 years. Is there anything that you sort of would, not that you necessarily with 1,000 emails a day get the chance to sit back and contemplate, but is there anything that you would change about where we've got to with journalism other than those people offering mindless opinions?
The salary, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, it's never been well, I guess it is if you work in London, but it's never been the best paid job in the world. But I don't mind that. I think if you're naturally nosy, it's an enjoyable job. And yeah, I really like it. I couldn't do anything else anyway, so I've got to like it. I've loved it, and I hopefully carry on loving it for a few more years. Yeah.
Do you think it's going to change much in the future?
Yeah, I do definitely. I think we're already seeing that. I think now, aren't we? And it's not just now. I think the sort of rise of self-publishing and is, the whole distrust of the BBC and the mainstream media and that kind of thing is mainly born from that, really, because anybody can publish anything, and but it doesn't mean it's any good, really.
True.
And it often attracts the sort of opposite ends of the sort of spectrum of society, I think.
But I suppose one of the things that I think about is that these opinions and these beliefs were being held by people who are sitting in cafes anyway and talking about it.
Absolutely.
Now they've got somewhere to publish it, which I think it just means for you guys it's a bit harder for your voice to be heard, isn't it?
Yeah. We've definitely been squeezed, if you like. Yeah, I mean, I go back to LinkedIn. It doesn't really annoy me anymore, but it used to annoy me. It's like people would put out some news about their company on LinkedIn, and then the next day you get it on a press release, and you think, I'm covering it now. It's already out there,
Just
why should
learn
we do
how
that?
to build those relationships.
It's not the end of the world.
No.
But that kind of thing, that changed. I think that changed everything. That sort of self-publishing. Where it'll go next, I don't know. Probably not for me to worry about, to be honest. But AI will have a huge effect on it, and I sometimes sit down and think, right, I'm going to look at AI and how to use it properly and how it can help my job, and then it's like everything that I don't really understand. I kind of like, I'll do it next week instead.
Ask your son about it.
Yeah. Sort of cryptocurrency, I tried about 15 times to understand that, and I just don't. So I don't think there's anything really. I think I'll just leave that.
Do you think that in this region there are any particular sectors of industry that are really going to fly in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think where you've got with the sort of green energy thing, with the nuclear stuff as well, it's happening at West Burton and where Ratcliffe on Soar power station was. There's a big strategy for that from the government as well. And the government published their industrial strategy the other week. I think, although it was a bit light on detail, I think there was at least a plan where there hasn't been a plan for at least a decade, and I think that's been so frustrating for businesses, really, outside of the professional services thing, like manufacturers, whatever, that kind of ilk of business. That there has just not been a plan to work towards, and at least there is now some kind of plan. And the green energy thing and the nuclear energy thing, I think, is big for the government, and I think the supply chain that comes down from that will do very well, I would imagine, if it's not just written on paper and forgotten about, if it actually goes forward. But it does sound like it's going to. If a company like Rolls-Royce is getting involved in it, then that it's probably going to be a goer.
I suppose you can pick out some indicators, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is actually going to be heading.
Yeah,
in
you
the
look
right
at the
direction.
car manufacturers a decade ago started making the first electric vehicles, the big ones. Then you kind of know that that's the way things are going, because they're not going to waste their money on time on doing stuff like that. And I think this, Rolls-Royce, the biggest company in the East Midlands, they've put a lot of money into research and development of these small modular reactors, and that's the way. That's what we'll do really well, I think, in the East Midlands.
I think it's interesting that you got the big companies, and then in a region like Northern Lincolnshire, we have, I don't know, I can't remember exactly the number, maybe 4,500 maybe SMEs, and not so many of the big players in here, and those kind of SMEs are sort of the big, collectively the biggest employers of people. It feels like that supply chain that you referenced there is really important, whether that's for the data centre type. I can't remember exactly what it was that's coming up in the parks outside Scunthorpe and Elsham and things like that. And you think, well, actually, yes, there are going to be people working there, and this is great because you want to attract people into an area, you want to keep people engaged in an area so they don't disappear.
Well, that's always been the problem with with northeast and north. I guess in the rural bits of Lincolnshire is keeping the younger people and giving them jobs, because most people that I went to school with don't live around here anymore because they either went away to university or they just weren't 30, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, whatever. The sort of exciting jobs, and it was that time when everybody was going to university. Mm-hmm. Nobody was sort of like looking at, I don't know, mechanical engineering as a career, and they can earn tons of money in it. Everybody wanted to be in the media, or I don't know, one of those sort of exciting jobs.
Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of people look more at apprenticeships now.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think there's just a lack of them, of funded apprenticeships, isn't there? And I mean, I looked the other day for my son. There's 2 in the whole of Nottingham.
Is that right?
Yeah. So you've got to be very lucky, or you've got a very good. You've got to find an employer who will take you on.
I think there's not to rabbit on about my own business, but what we've tried to do is to create something which is interesting and different for people in Caister, that might ordinarily have gone, right, we'll have to go to Leeds.
Well, listen, if you'd have told me when I was at school up the road there'd be a marketing firm, 400 yards away, no, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I think that the more that this can happen, one brings 2, brings 3, and that sort of knock-on effect, and businesses work closely together and with values that align, and I think that's a really important thing in 2025, isn't it? That alignment of business values.
The rise of Lincoln University as well as the University of Lincoln has helped, and they're struggling, they're all going through tough times at the moment. But we were kind of when we were at Caister, we were kind of in the middle of Grimsby and Lincoln. When we started going out, where would we go? We wouldn't go to Lincoln because it was like, there was blokes in wellies walking through the city centre. You go to Grimsby because it was a bit more exciting. But that's totally changed. Lincoln's probably my favourite East Midlands city because it seems to be absolutely thriving.
Yeah, it has made a massive.
And you're only 15, 20 miles away.
Yeah, that's right.
And people are going to stick around. The jobs are here.
I think the UCNL, University College North Lincolnshire, they're doing amazing things. I had a tour around there the other day, and what they're doing from an engineering perspective is fantastic, and the facilities that they have, and the science that they want to promote, and that's again, it's retaining people into the area, and the businesses that will then spin out from there. Because you've seen lots of businesses, and you must have seen them as well, coming out of University of Lincoln. And people feeling confident to say, well, actually, I've learned this, I've met these people, and we're going to stay and create a digital marketing agency or something like that. Yeah, that wasn't my channel, but I've seen lots of other people do it. So that does fill us with hope, I think. And I think that the green side of things, yes, people will be sceptical about it, and particularly with our mayoral appointment in this region, that it's going to be more challenging, but everyone's up for the fight, I think, and wants to make it happen. Shouldn't turn this into political broadcast.
No, but I think you're right, and it does seem to be, certainly over the last 5 years, with my energy and the stuff that Jason Stockwood's doing in Grimsby, and that kind of thing. There just seems to be more noise coming out around that. Which is great because that just didn't happen for a while.
I think I often say to people, everyone's got to come from somewhere. Everyone starts out in some place or another, and it just takes that person to sort of start shouting about it and being proud of it, and and seeing the positives and the potential and then pulling it all together. And then businesses do get on the back of it, and they'll be sending you stuff. And
well, listen, if there's money to be made in it, they will get on the back of it.
Yeah,
that's the sort of bottom line of it, isn't it? Literally.
Yeah,
it is, and that's what will happen if the government grants, if there's there's money to be made, then.
And do you see, because there's the East Midlands in those years since I moved up here, it granted isn't particularly long, 12 years or so. It seems to be, and this might be my bias from being based here, but it does seem to be more important and having a bigger role to play nationally.
Yeah, I agree, and I certainly, like we said earlier, I think the city centres have gone Lincoln apart, which has gone the other way, which is great. The city centres have struggled certainly, probably before COVID as well, and certainly COVID knocked the stuff out of the city centres, and they've not really recovered. And certainly, I'm thinking of Nottingham and Leicester in particular. Okay. Derby's a little bit different, I think.
There's quite a good digital scene in Nottingham, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. But the council have had no money. The place needs sprucing up, but it's changing. Nottingham should be on the up now, with finally sorting out the Broadmarsh area and redeveloping that. Again, going back, the money that the mayor of the East Midlands, Claire Ward, will get from the government will help, not Leicester, but certainly help. A lot of the sort of city centre upgrading, I think, and also outside of the city centres as well. But I think that's what the area just needs something to hang its hat on, and I think the mayor could be that, and like it was in the West Midlands. Excuse me, with Andy Street before Richard Parker came along. The West Midlands was a sort of diaspora really of sort of battling egos and bad decisions, and it took one person who was quite charismatic to get them all together, and did really well. Same with Andy Burnham in the Northwest, from your old stamping ground. And that's what we need around here. And like I say, I'm dubious about the Greater Lincolnshire mayor, but I think, I think, again, like I said earlier, it's the only show in town. You need to get behind the East Midlands mayor. Yeah, I think it's a shame Leicester missed out on that. But
I think there's a really strong opportunity for that sort of channel up from sort of Nottingham up Newark, Lincoln, and then carrying on up to North East Links and over to Scunthorpe in North Lincolnshire. That can be a really sort of positive sort of artery of business productivity and people moving there and staying there and thinking a bit differently and seeing opportunities and actually getting excited about it. I know that's a slightly optimistic view on things, but I think if you start with optimism,
absolutely. And I think it will take time. And like we said earlier, people just got to be. I said at the top, people just got to be patient. But people aren't patient. And but if we come back in 20 years' time, I would bet a lot of money on the East Midlands being a better place than it was 20 years ago from now. Yeah. Because it will have the money to spend on what it needs to spend it on, not what the government will go, well, there you are.
Yeah. And I think there's the sort of the difference between the hub of the East Midlands, which is where you are based, down sort of Nottingham, Leicester, Derby, and then the sort of the impact that the success there can have as it bleeds upwards into Lincolnshire, and starts. Well, it's not even starts; it's already happening. The positivity that comes from that, and that then gives you as a reporter, journalist, and editor more to get stuck into. Your day becomes more exciting. You're not when you're doing your top 50 stories at the end of the year. Hopefully, they're more positive than negative. I mean, again, that's an optimistic view, but it does feel like there is, deep down some optimism here, and I think that the sort of the green sustainability stuff is battling hard to try and make itself known. Yeah,
I would agree.
I just think it's it needs more support. I think that's the thing, but that's not where the money is necessarily.
It's not where the money is, and it doesn't help that you've got someone, the president in America, just saying this is all crap. And big firms pulling back from it a little bit. Yeah, and, that kind of does not help at all. But I think hopefully that's just a sort of temporary blip. Yeah.
And do you a bit of maybe a potentially sort of not controversial but a difficult question to give us a fully honest, are you ever kind of encouraged not to publish a story, or or to publish a story that you don't want to? Is it not your choice to choose? It's actually, well, you just do what is right for the values of the organisation.
I've not published stuff before because I don't agree with it. Let's leave that. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and but I think anybody would. I think that's a sort of unconscious bias you've got, isn't it?
Yeah, and somebody else who's sitting in your seat might make that decision about something else
Yeah.
that you would be fully behind,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
just the nature of the world.
Yeah. Well, we're not robots, are we yet?
No. Yeah, we robot Sam in 5 years' time.
But no, I think yeah, you kind of just do that without really knowing it.
Yeah.
What I think's a good story might not be. Somebody else might think somebody else.
But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? There's a subjectivity
Yeah.
about an editor being able to say, well, this is what I'm going to choose to do.
Yeah. And that's why it's like sort of fantasy football almost. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that sort of weird control freak in me, I think. Yeah.
I think that's probably a good place to leave it,
Right.
just to sign out. But I really appreciate your thoughts, your insights, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Alex. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Pleasure.